Ladies and gentlemen, this is Attorney Sharp Raleigh, and we're going to discuss about something which is in the mind of many right now: the deportation of the F1 students, and it's still happening for some students that they are getting denied at the port of entry. Not that bad that before. I wrote this article, which you can see on that screen here: the 10 reasons why Indian F1 students are being deported entry in the United States. But I'm going to kind of give some tips to the students what they should do and what they should not do when they are applying for their student visa, especially when they are at the US Embassy in India or in another country. So hopefully those tips will help. So we're going to take those points and kind of show you what you should not do actually. For one, whenever you're picking a school, make sure you're picking a school which is reliable. Not saying that there are some schools that can sound bad, but the truth is that they might totally be acceptable because the US department allows them to issue the service. So once you get the school will issue what we call the DS, the I-20, and from the I-20, you have to go to the US Embassy, apply for your DS-160. And the truth is, the few questions that we usually get when they go there say, okay, first of all, why you want to go to America to study? Can't you just do that in India or the country where you're from? And who is going to pay for your studies? And oftentimes people are kind of confused on those questions. And if your father or your mother or you're paying for your studies, be ready to prove that, and don't change when you reach here someone else pays for that, because what happens then, it looks like you kind of used the income of someone else to get approved, and once you get approved, you're using the income of another income to pay for the schools. The reason they ask that, I'll tell you why. Many students, and I've seen it in many cases, they come here and they go ahead and work unlawfully, which is illegally. They will go and work in restaurants and things like that, which many people have done in the past and have gotten away with. But now recently, with the, like I said, where they are very very strict, because we are in a political climate where students and immigrants are not really the favorite of the United States. So any job that the students are doing are being punished. I had a case and an example where someone was working in a pizza shop, and he got picked up, and not only he got picked up, the owner of the place and ended up in jail. So they gave that choice to the students, to one of the students, and say, hey, you can go back or we will put you in deportation. So ultimately, of course, he went back. And I understand that people are struggling and there are shortcuts they want to take, but right now it's not a good time to take those shortcuts, and I will not recommend taking those shortcuts as a lawyer. But the truth, these are realities, so you need to be able to deal with that. The reason I'm mentioning that is this is one thing that they are really kind of looking into when people are coming to study here, if you have the means to pay for the school. So the other thing that we are seeing regularly, as soon as people are landing here, many of the schools, and by the way, they have kind of stopped recently. Many of the schools are giving CPTs to them. While the CPT is allowed, it's something which is there, which has been issued. Abusing it becomes a big problem, and I have a video on abusing the CPTs and the consequences of it, so I'm not going to go into that. But abusing the CPT basically means going directly full time on it, and that's one of the reasons when you use CPTs full time, you get what we call, you don't get an OPT at the end. And OPT, as you know, is what basically is a work permit after you complete your degree. So be very careful on that. And also, one of the things we have noticed, there are a lot of agents out there in those countries, which are not lawyers, of course, which are basically selling nada to people. I call it. They're selling nothing. They're lying to them, giving them false information, false hope. And unfortunately, when the students come here, there is a reality check, and they end up by getting stuck either at the airport or while they're inside the United States. They get a lot of complications. So what you need to do, you need to make sure that the school you're picking again is a good school, and you have a lot of good public schools here. which are both giving CPTs and OPTs, but they're doing it right. And I know there are a lot of schools that has been blacklisted in the Bay Area, but I'm not going to really go after them because many of them are actually helping a lot of students. So we have to be fair to them too. The other thing that we see is the biggest problem. One of the reasons of denial is the INA 214B, which is the intent to immigrate. So how do you prove that you don't have an intent to immigrate? You have to show ties to your home country. What do they mean by ties? For example, let's say you're working in a company, they're giving you a break for 1 year or two to finish your schooling. You need to prove that. And two, you don't have to have the intention to stay here. Of course, if an opportunity comes by when you are here, it's a different story. So you need to be careful to know that and if you have properties, for example, if you have all your families, if you have a spouse in India or the other country, so you need to show this. Unfortunately, at the counter, sometimes the officer will not even give you a chance to explain that. And this is where the point 10 here is luck. So I'm going to discuss about that in a minute, but before I go there, I'm going to talk about the other issues. And then also, because once you finish giving the interview where they ask you who's going to pay for the school, which school you're going to, and are you going to come back, and no, don't have an immigrant to intend to no intent to immigrate, I'm sorry, you will probably be given the stamp on your passport, which is a student visa. Now, the other thing, just getting the stamp doesn't guarantee you an entry. What a stamp on your passport visa allows you to get is only to get into the plane or get into a car wherever you are and come to the border, which is the airport for most Indian students. And here, a CBP officer, the Custom Border Patrol, will make a determination at their discretion. I repeat that, at their discretion. So they're going to look at your case and say, we think this guy, we can let him in, or this girl, we will let her in. And it's at their discretion. And oftentimes, usually it goes smoothly, but recently we have seen this is where most of the students got stopped. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky here. If you get stopped, you just get sent back like that, there's no problem. But if you get stopped and you get what we call an expedited removal, which is a summary deportation, that means they just send you and they put something on your passport that you've been deported at the airport. For 5 years, you cannot come back to the United States. It is called the 5 year bar. Be very careful on that. That's where the risk is sometimes. And if this happens, the only way to get back, you need to get a waiver and get another visa, get a waiver, then you will be able to come back. It's called a 212 non-immigrant visa waiver. So these are few things that are happening, and I'm giving the tips how you can probably manage those. And of course, we know what is happening right now. You probably see it on the news. And there is a lot of it's an election year, by the way, and things are getting tougher on all those agencies. Basically, there is a push, anti-immigration push, so you need to be ready for that. And this goes back again to your luck on point 10. And also, not only political, there are a group of so-called workers, and for me personally, they have just made a studies and they find out many of them are linked to some kind of extreme groups, uh, and some white supremacist groups. Sometimes they are very anti-immigration. So basically, anything immigration, whether it's good or bad, they don't want it. And basically, they get their frustration. They take out their frustration on immigrants, etc. So those groups are suing the government many times, and some of them are genuine groups. Like we had lawsuits right now on the OPT, as you know, and basically it killed the 17-month OPT. Luckily, hopefully, the good news is that the new OPT will come back, then 24-month OPT, so that will help. And they even sued the H4 EAD. Luckily, I'm very proud to say that we worked on this H4 EAD and it was done properly, and so far they have not been able to kill it. And the other big point here, the point 9 we have on the screen here, as you can see, giving false documents. Giving false documents can actually create a bar on your situation because it's misrepresentation and lying. We have seen cases where people are either lazy or they just want to defraud the immigration. They give false diplomas, they give false birth certificate, and sometimes false marriage certificate. Let me put it simple. If you don't have it, don't give it. Because by giving it or lying about it, your chances of denial is so high. Not only denial, you might be charged of fraud, and you might not even get a waiver to come back here if you are charged of fraud and misrepresentation. I'm not saying you're not going to get a waiver, but why would you do that? Take your chance on the case and do it right, do it simple. Don't try the shortcut, because oftentimes the shortcut will bite you even when you enter United States. So be very, very careful. Do not lie, do not misrepresent, and do not give false documents, because it can really turn against you. And of course, the big factor I was talking about is luck. Luck is amazing, because I've seen cases where people go, two-person go with the same documents, same things, and unfortunately one gets the approval, the other one gets the denial. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, to recap here, if you are a student, you want to come, few quick tips. Make sure you're getting good school, a good school, a school which is reputable, that is going to really give you an education. Make sure that your documents are all right, because if you give any documents which is kind of tempered, which have been changed, or which is not real, it will bite you. And also make sure that you prove that you have an intent to go back. This is where the intent to immigrate issue I-214B, you need to prove this, and I have mentioned earlier in the video some of the things that they are looking for. For example, ties to your not for example, ties to your country. You have a business, you have land, you have property, you have family, etc. And also make sure that you don't overdo once you get the stamp. And I've seen many people, as soon as they get the stamp, they go all over the forum, stop talking about it, how they got it. This is they did this, they did that, and guess what? You never know who's looking at those information, and it can come back and bite you at the airport. And of course, it goes back to luck. That point 10 is the situation we are right now. We are in a politically charged situation, and many anti-immigration groups are really kind of giving a hard time to students. So be very careful out there. And when you come here, you reach here safely. Make sure you don't abuse your CPT. Make sure you work properly. Make sure you also don't try to take unlawful jobs. And ladies and gentlemen, if you need help with your student visa when you are here, you need help with H-1B or any kind of visa where we can help you, please give us a call, 510-742-5887, and you can visit us at attorneyonair.com, attorneyonair.com. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and please subscribe to our videos for more. And again, anything I told you today is for educational purposes only. Thank you.